Hello, YouTube, and the
YouTube, Facebook,
Spotify,
Instagram.
wherever you are listening and consuming this podcast. Today's going to be a good one. I'm really excited for it.
Yeah,
So, I guess let's just jump into it. I will
you
start
got it.
recording in 3, 2, 1.
Leaders and healers from around the globe, from around the universe. Welcome to the Power, Purpose, and Passion podcast. I am your host, Anthony Cheam. This is where we claim your power. We help you claim your power, clarify your purpose, and cultivate your deepest and highest passions on the planet so you can express the highest version of you, the best version of yourself to the world through every role you play, so then you can make massive changes in your life and the people around you. So thank you again. I'm your host, Anthony Cheam, and today's subject matter has quite influenced me a lot. As you know, this is the 9 steps to improve your health. This is step number 2. Yesterday was getting to know yourself, or self-awareness, or know thyself. That is always the first step. And yesterday's podcast, a joke for the people that watched it, I was in my daughter's room, and so it was no more pink and purple background. We're now back to my old room. So we're in the presence of doing some renovations and some painting. And so we're excited for today's podcast. It's all about love languages. And to give you an idea how powerful love languages are, I was introduced to this concept of love languages back probably about 15 years ago. And it was one of the first, self-help books that I read. That really impacted my life. I had read self-help books before, but this one was really engaging and really resonating with me. And to give you an idea of how powerful this is that last night, for the past week, I've had a few personal challenges in my life. My wife's Nana passed away just recently. My mom was diagnosed with a kind of rare skin disease, autoimmune disease, and we're getting tests done to make sure it's nothing crazy, of course. And we're getting some renovations done. All, when it rains, it pours, people were saying to me all the time. But you know what the truth of the matter is? That's only half the truth. Because when it rains, it pours, but when it pours, it sunshines right after. And when it sunshines, it gives life. So that's only half the truth, guys. So just know that the pouring of the rain, we're about to get hit by a crazy rainstorm in Carolina, and God bless and peace be with those people that are about to be hit by that hurricane, and prayers and thoughts and love to you out there who are listening to this and who are going through that and who are having to exit their homes, and yeah, that's quite a challenge. So this episode again is love languages, and we're going to delve literally right into it. And just as an example, yesterday I took my mom to the hospital to get some tests done, and there was a woman that was actually at the hospital that was actually having a panic attack when she got a diagnosis, and she was freaking out, and you could tell she was literally making a scene. And to make a long story short, I had this deep desire. And I was already tired. I was tired. I was exhausted. I was emotionally, physically, mentally exhausted. And there was also uncertainty in my life with my mother going through what she's going through, the death of my wife's grandmother. So there's already this feeling of draining emotion coming from me already. And what I discovered was when I saw her go through her panic attack, I had this immediate feeling of, I've got to help this person. And when I made the shift from what I'm going through to how may I serve, I literally stepped in, saw her panic attack, and I said, let me help you. I see that you're having a very, very tough time right now. Let me help you. And I grabbed her hands, and you could feel her energy sort of just kind of, because I was sharing my positive vibes, my love, my concern, and my deep caring for her, a human being, and that suffering. And I had a good 15, 20 minutes with her. And I basically hugged her, and I was just repeating a mantra or an affirmation or prayer to her in her ear. And all of a sudden, the panic attack kind of dissipated, and we were able to have a conversation. I was able to break that pattern. But the important part of that is this, guys. It's not, and from that, I was exhausted. But as soon as I see someone suffering that needs to be served, that needs to feel like that is going through a tough struggle, as soon as I take the focus off my own troubles and onto someone else's and how can I serve that person, immediately I feel charged. So serving other people, loving other people the way they need to be loved, nurturing people the way they need to be loved and nurtured, and meeting them at their level, their rule book, their love language, I promise you, your relationships will be legendary. You'll have explosions and dynamite levels of passion and connection with the people who you love around you. And this was a complete stranger. And this is how I live my life, guys. And I don't expect you to be like that, but at least make more deposits into your relationships life than make withdrawals. So that's basically what it is. So Cam, I went on a rant as per usual, and thanks for joining us, man. How you doing, man?
I'm doing really good. I really appreciate you sharing that story, even if it wasn't obviously about the topic of today's episode completely.
Yeah.
No, seriously, that was awesome. And I remember I've had experiences in my life where I felt like why are people taking from others or gaining at other people's expense in this world. And sometimes you get overwhelmed and you're like, I have nothing to give. If you have nothing to give, then just stop taking. Stop making withdrawals, and then it'll just be neutral and just focus on yourself for a bit. Because I know a lot of people are in that place where they are just not in the right space to be giving constantly because they haven't yet given to themselves. So rather than, because like a lot of people say giving is the answer, but there's also the idea of just like not taking, just like walk through and leave no footprints. Just don't try and mess things up all the time, So yeah, I love that. And meeting people at their love language. Because like, as an example, if you were to give somebody a Christmas gift, so excited for Christmas, it's coming up. If you were to give somebody a Christmas gift, like Anthony, you wouldn't give me a race car bed. Actually, no, I would love that. Why is that the example? I like race car beds. Those are great. But if you were to give me like a flower dress or something, like thank you, man, but I'm not gonna wear it. So
you're not gonna wear it.
You're gonna want to give to people what you know that they value, right? So this is an exciting episode. We're gonna talk about love languages. So I guess dive into it. I want to hear a few things, like why love languages, and what are the just extremely practical tips that you could use to, help people.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind, and to add to what you just basically said, I'm going off topic here, but I want to share this with you because I think about the profundity of what I'm about to tell you is so powerful that, there's a guy named Matthew Richard. He's a Buddhist monk, and he's been named the happiest man in the world. And he basically talks about how, and they've basically studied his brain, and there's like his brain is lit up in the happy and joyful serotonin parts of his brain are just lit up, and then the depression and sad parts of his brain are like there's nothing there. And they asked him, "What do you do on a daily basis?" And he said, to add to your effect, he meditates 3-4 hours a day. So he's all about self-care, and as they say, the new healthcare is self-care. So he's meditating, filling his own bucket up. So when he finally gets out of that, he's able to serve better. And one of the physiologists asked him, so yeah, but is that all you do? 4 hours of meditation? That's it? He goes, well, actually, here's one practice that I do. Anytime I feel like I'm having a downtime or I'm having a pity party, he immediately changes his focus from inward to how can I serve someone that's suffering worse than I am? And it immediately makes the shift. So this is very powerful stuff, guys. And so again, love languages. First and foremost, the 5 love languages are: number 1, physical touch; number 2, words of affirmation; number 3, acts of service; number 3, gift giving; and number 5, quality time. So write those down, and you get a sense. We all have all 5, and love languages are just basically another typology. And we're going to get into more typologies like masculine, feminine energy, and the DISC personality profile tests. And we're going to get into more typologies. But this specific typology, love languages, really affected me a number of years ago because I was like, wow, what love language am I? And I did the love language test. And it's no surprise, my love language was words of affirmation. I think 80% of the men that I've coached or have met, or friends or family, they have this feeling when they accomplish something, they like hearing "good job." I don't know, for most people out there, again, it's kind of generally speaking that way, but from my experience, words of affirmation seems to be a big one for a lot of men out there. So, when my wife tells me I'm a good husband, my kids say, "I love you, Dad. You're the best dad ever." Things like that. I mean, that's the greatest thing in the world for me. That's worth $1 billion. That cannot be replaced. So that's the first thing. And so just to give you an idea, again, I've given this example before, that if you see the world through your own lens, through your own filters of, my love language is words of affirmation, and then secondary is physical touch. We all have all five, by the way, but we have 1 or 2 that we operate from. And the idea of all this is that we look at the world. For me personally, I look at the world and say, oh, if my love language is words of affirmation and physical touch, everyone else's language must be words of affirmation and physical touch. And we know that not to be true at all. But let's say my wife, she's more physical touch and quality time. Now, whose rules do I use to make her feel loved? My own or hers? And the key is to make the other person feel loved by their own rule book. But we don't tap into that sort of take a mile in someone else's shoes, or take the role of other and see how they see the world and meet them there in their own world, and how their own map or their own blueprint of how life is supposed to be based on relationships. So the idea for me is, once I knew that, I was giving everyone tons of affirmation through words, and everyone hugs. People that know me real, that have met me, I'm a huggable, crazy, affectionate type guy. That's just who I am, a physical touch, words of affirmation guy. But my wife is more quality time. Now the question is, would I make her feel loved at the deepest level if I just met her with words of affirmation and physical touch? My rule book. And the answer is maybe a little. But the key for her is she sees the world's quality time, present moment time. And most feminine women honor quality time, full present moment time. And we'll get into masculine and feminine energy again. But the point is, she would not feel loved. And the second part of it is, if she were to shift her rule book onto me and she saw the world as quality time and physical touch being number one, then and she used her rule book of spending quality time and hugging me and cuddling me, all that stuff, but she never told me I was a good husband, never told me I was a good father, never told me I love you. Would I feel loved? And actually, we've actually had this conversation before, and it's very enlightening. It's good to have these conversations, good to learn these typologies, open the lines of communication between your family, your friends, the people you care about most, and understand and appreciate your friends, your family's husband, wife, mother, father, son, daughter's world, so you can meet them at their levels. One of the great parenting principles I tell people is, listen, you should not love your children the same. Determine what their personality traits are, masculine and feminine energy, what their love language is. Because a kid that doesn't like to be hugged all the time, and your love language is physical touch, you might give them physical touch, but their love language might be, let's say, acts of service. Then meet them at their level. And once you do that, here's the great and awesome thing about this. Once you make deposits into their bank account of love, the law of reciprocation occurs, and they'll want to reciprocate that. And I've discovered this in my own life with my children, with my friends, my family, my wife. I've discovered this just in my business, that I'm just giving people gifts of love, words, books. I'm giving free books out on the street to random people. I'm doing webinars and podcasts and speaking engagements, anywhere I can just give of myself, my love language, and adhere to the people's around me love language. I can tell you, I feel like I'm rich in relationship. I'm rich in opportunity. I'm rich in spiritual connection. And I can tell you, learning these love languages, and I know you can do a love language test online too. You can actually type it in on Google. But determine what your love language is. Again, the first step is know thyself. And the second step is, again, the love languages. So that's what I really encourage each and every single one on the people listening to this podcast to actually discover what their love language is, to discover more about themselves, to know yourself with greater depth. And the more you know yourself with greater depth, you can actually go out and search with your friends and your family. Because when I started doing this stuff, I started going, hey, I'm XYZ love language. I'm XYZ type personality. I'm XYZ masculine and feminine energy. I'm wondering, scratching my head. I'm wondering what my mother is. I'm wondering what my friends are. And you find yourself going on this curious journey of discovering more, not just about yourself, but about how other people operate. And I think what makes me a great coach, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, what makes me a great coach, and the greatest compliment that I get from people that I work with is, number one, your authenticity, your generosity, your genuine desire to want to help me, but also too, another compliment they say is that a lot of people will say, Anthony, your ability to connect with me at a deep level and to understand me is such a great and honorable gift that I have. But it's not really such a gift, but my understanding of myself, love language, personality types, and masculine and feminine energy, studying life, studying myself, reading books and going to seminars and repeating audios all the time, and just feeding my mind the right material, garbage in, garbage out, as they say. So again, 5 love languages. Let me repeat that: physical touch, words of affirmation, acts of service, gift giving, and quality time. So determine the first step, determine what your love language is, and then go on an exploration on maybe take 3 of your best friends or your boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, mother, father, and talk to them about it and say, when have you asked them this question? When have you felt really loved by me? Did I say something to you? Did I give you something? Did I spend quality present moment time with you? And get to know their rule book. And once you're able to do that, I can tell you, it'll be so much easier to communicate love to somebody with much greater precision. And I think that's what it's all about, becoming more precise in the way you communicate and display your love to particular people.
Yeah, and I mean, like, you could probably be more than just one too, right? And I'm sure some people are all of them, but there's obviously lists of priorities and where you're at on that spectrum.
You got
cool.
it.
So what can people do today to figure this out? Like, just right after they listen to this podcast.
Even go on Google, just go on a love language test. Gary Chapman is the guy that wrote the book. He's written, I mean, that book sold multi-million of books just because how profound and simple the wisdom was. But you can actually read the book and then take the love language test at the end of his book as well. And you can actually go online and actually just type it in. I mean, there's just many different tests online that are free. But again, I mean, just write those 5 love languages down. I already knew words of affirmation, just reading the book. I already knew that was my love language. But now it's like, what I'm telling you is something you already know. I'm just bringing it into light. It's like being in a room and all of a sudden, that you're in a room, you're in a room, but all of a sudden the light turns on. You're like, oh, I'm in a room. And then now I know where the 4 walls are. I know the dimensions of the room. I know where the door is. I know where the exit is. I know where where the bed is. So the more you know about these typologies, the more you know about yourself, your personality, your emotional patterns, all these things that go along with being a human being. And I mean, I could talk about this all day long, but I don't want to bore you. I want to keep it simple as possible. But the love languages are so key and elemental in creating those strong and powerful relationships. And I think it's just the first step is take the love language test. Number 2, know what your primary love language is or your secondary one as well. And then go on a search of 3 or 4 or 5 of your friends or family members and just have a conversation with them and say, hey, I listened to this podcast and there's talk about the 5 love languages and maybe share it with them. And then just say, what is your love language? When have you felt loved by me? Why? And just kind of go on exploration. So, because the reality is, let's say, Cam, let's say your love language was words of affirmation. And I sent you a text one day and I said, wow, I know Cam's love language is words of affirmation. I'm going to send him a text saying, you know what, man, you're an amazing human being. You've impacted my life. You're inspirational. You're young. You're vibrant. You're driven. I just want to say, man, thank you for being my friend. I wouldn't be here or doing what I'm doing today without you. Bye. How would your day then be? How would you feel? Would you be more productive? Right? Would you be more excited about life? And that's exactly the key. It took me like 20 seconds to write that text. And then guess what? That 1 20-second text will impact your life. Now, would that have the same effect if I was in person with you and I just kind of patted you on the back? If your love language wasn't physical touch, it probably would. Now, switch that. Let's say your love language was gift giving. And I sent you this care package from Amazon. And I sent you this, hey, I was thinking about you, man. I know you like music. And I thought about you when I saw this. Boom, here's something for you. Bam, you'd be like, wow, this guy's sending me random gifts, man. You know what I'm saying? So again, it all comes down to adhering and meeting people at their level, at their world. Understand and appreciate their world, how it works. Meet them at their level. Because it's easy to influence people that are like you. But it's the key and the more astounding reality to make an impact on people's lives, you got to meet them first, understand and appreciate their world first, and then meet them at their level.
Do you know how you could find out what their love language is without actually speaking up about it or asking or anything like that?
Well, I think intuitively, as I said, I was reading this book and I already knew what mine was. Here's a question for the audience out there. If I were to ask you this question, if you and I were one-on-one right now, and I asked you this question, when have you really felt loved by somebody, and what was happening?
Yeah, no, I mean like other people, like because we already spoke about that. Like, when did you?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So how do you tell it from other people? Like, say my best friend is an example, but I don't want to ask, hey, when have you, whatever, or something like that.
Great question, because one of the questions I like to ask when going into partnership with people, or I have new clients, I'll ask them one randomly, and it's for me to understand and appreciate their world a bit more. For our relationship to be so solid, for our relationship to be tight, and for you to trust me fully, what would I need to do to make that happen? What would I need to do to make that happen? Give me 3 things that I would need to do to make this relationship with you and I so solid, so strong, so tight that there is so much trust and honesty and connection that it's virtually unbreakable. What would I need to do? 1, 2, 3 things. Maybe ask your girlfriend or boyfriend or your husband or wife that question. What do I need to do on a daily basis in order for you to feel like, wow, I've got a deep connection with my partner. I got a deep connection with my lover, my husband, my mother, my father, whatever it might be. It is a great question. In fact, I asked my wife this a few years ago, and I asked her, I said, what's 1 or 2 things I'm doing really good at? And she'd say, oh man, you work hard, you're driven, you give the kids such a great example. And then I asked her the follow-up question, what's 1 or 2 things I need to improve on? And be honest with her, brutally honest with me. She said, well, you need to turn off your phone more when you're with the kids, because she used one of her lines on me, basically saying, your presence don't equal your presence. right? One of the most profound lines that Marianne Williamson used, her daughter used on her, I believe it was her daughter. She said to her, she said to one of her family members saying, I miss my mommy even when she's with me. So you can be there physically, but then be in another world mentally or emotionally. So it's like I see people all the time at restaurants, and they're sitting in restaurants and they're texting. I don't get it. Maybe that's the new generation, of course. But if you're at a restaurant, I rarely look at my phone, other than if there's people there that are texting me because they're late or something like that. But rarely do I actually have my phone playing games. I'm with my kids. I'm with my family, with my friends. I'm there fully present. And it's what's interesting in life there, Cam, is that we have all this technology right now to communicate through podcasts, through phone, through computers, through whatever it might be. 15 platforms we're introducing this podcast to, but we have very little communication going on. I mean, how many times have you got a text from someone and then you interpret it as something mean, but because you couldn't hear the tonality of their voice and understand that they were joking, you took it personally. So there's got to be that sort of one-on-one sort of communication, that live communication with people. I love to call people on their birthdays rather than just text them. One of my best friends, she says, Anthony, what I love about you is because you don't just say happy birthday to me. You actually call me, and actually it's such a rare thing that people call now to see how people are doing or say happy birthday. And so it's in her love language, obviously just not just words of affirmation, but quality present moment time through the lines of communication through phones.
So yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, because I mean, a lot of people don't take the time, especially because I think the phone is sort of like, it's like an excuse. It's like snacking and then not actually getting real nutrition. It's like we are getting communicated, but it's like the wrong kind of communication there. So so like, again, like there's so many studies about how simply 1 or like 8 hugs a day or something can change your life forever.
100%.
Like actual hugging, like it's that simple, right?
I'd say 100. I'd say 100.
As many hugs as possible.
Well, what's interesting about that, what you're saying, there's a great study that was done with these rabbits, and it was such a profound study. And they were studying atherosclerosis, and they would inject these rabbits with this poison of atherosclerosis. And after a certain period of time, they were studying the blood of these bunnies, and every single one of them would develop atherosclerosis, except for one group. And they were like, "That's interesting." One test group didn't actually get any disease or any form, or didn't actually turn into this disease. And what they discovered was the technician injecting the poison. Sorry, guys, I just cut off for a second. The technician that was injecting the poison, he would actually hold the bunny and cuddle it and caress it and say, I love you, you're beautiful, you're precious, and then inject the actual poison in. And the act of loving that bunny, saying words of affirmation, loving that bunny through words, through physical touch, the 5 love languages for bunnies or animals, right? They feel it too. Every single bunny within that test group didn't get it. So somehow the act of loving somebody through physical touch, through words, through saying I love you, are so powerful. In fact, that reminds me of the great book that was written a number of years ago called The Messages in Water. I highly recommend you read it. And it's about a Japanese scientist who discovered that he basically took 2 bottles of water and he put thank you, I love you on one bottle, and I hate you, I want to kill you on another. And every morning and evening, he would say to the one, thank you, I love you on to one, and then I hate you, I want to kill you on another. And then he would do that for like 30 days or something. And then he froze the water. And what he discovered was so life-changing. He went on this crazy, crazy journey going into water. So he basically found, when he studied the I hate you, I want to kill you, like frozen crystals, like under a microscope, they were all deformed and like it was chaotic and dark. But when he studied the thank you, I love you crystals, they formed these beautiful crystals. Like, and if you think about it, our body is 70% water. What we say to ourselves and how we love ourselves and how words don't affect us. Trust me, they do at some subatomic level. It does. So how you speak to yourself is one thing. So speak words of power to yourself, speak words of power to others. Why does it say in the Bible, thou shalt not curse a deaf man? If the deaf man can't hear it, then who must it be hurting? Yourself. That's a great way to look at it, right? So look at words. Again, words of affirmation are so powerful. And we're going off a little bit, but it's just the power of our words, the power of, and again, we're going to talk about power words too as well. But the point is that all the 5 love languages are encompassed in what I've just talked about. So go on exploration. Step number 1, know yourself, what your love language is. Get to know other people's love language. Ask other people, hey, listen, when is a time when you really felt cared by me? And just go on this crazy exploration. And I think you'll have greater depth in relationship, greater understanding of relationship. And I heard one guy say a long time ago, for you men out there that want to try to understand women, don't try to understand women. Just love them. Love them, be present with them. And the journey to trying to understand them, you don't need to understand them. If you love them and meet them where they are, and you're for that, and you're with them with commanding truth and presence, trust me when I say this, understanding them I'm just trying to understand them will be pointless, because loving them is the only thing that they understand.
Yeah, I think the crazy part is we were talking about how, 100 hugs and how loving the bunny while it's being injected can actually make it so that it doesn't get the disease or whatever.
Yeah.
But when we're sick, we're told to get away from everyone. Don't touch me, I'm sick.
Oh yeah.
I love the irony there. Okay, so great episode, fantastic episode. I also just want to thank everybody for tuning in. We had Farah tune in, obviously, Cheryl, Gail, Global Alliance for Peace. That sounds amazing. Wow. I'll have to check that out after.
Love you, Global Alliance for Peace.
Beacon for awesome. Change. These are all just, I love these people. That's awesome. So great. I'll have to check you guys out in a bit. But yeah, seriously, thank you guys for tuning in. This is day 2 in a 9-day thing about improving your relationships, whether that be intimate or friendship or family or whatever. Just your relations with other human beings, because it is one of the most important parts of life. No matter what, you will be around people, and you'll want to be around people. You're human. So this is a very important, this week and next week, it's very important that we go over these topics. So great episode. Tomorrow we're talking about personality types. So it's more than just what you need to feel loved. It's the way your flow of life is, the way you go about living and thinking and everything, right? So I'm really excited for that one too.
Got it.
Go ahead and outro it.
Yeah, well, listen, guys, if you really like these podcasts, it's free. I just want to serve you. I just want to give as much as I can to the world. And so subscribe to iTunes or Spotify. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. Like it, share it, comment on it, ask questions, and I will do my best. Cam is there in the back just looking up all the comments and questions. And if there's any questions that come up, he sends it to me and then I answer them. As a team, we're here to help you grow and evolve. And I will end with this. There was a gentleman that I heard about that he woke up one day deaf. And one of the worst things that he says that he misses the most is hearing the word "I love you" from his children and his wife. Out of all the things he misses the most, he doesn't miss the music. He doesn't miss the words from other people. Those 3 simple words, "I love you." And I will end off with this, that I think the most important words you can say to someone is "I love you." The second most important words you can say to someone is "Forgive me, I made a mistake." So words are very powerful. And that is actually one of the steps. So again, this is step number 2, love languages. We're going to 9 steps. Tomorrow is step 3. And for about personality types, I'm really jacked up about that as well. And so to your continued upgrade and evolution, live it up with power, purpose, and passion. I love you guys. Set the world ablaze, on fire, and give yourself to the world with everything you have. Thank you.